some of my solutions or demands has been said by the other members. Well, first of all, I think we should make some kind of reflection about the resolutions of the Parliament. For instance, we have the resolution on the endangered European languages and linguistic diversity that was started by the report of Alfonsi. If we read the recommendations, I think they are very strong. I mean, because those recommendations, the resolution calls both to the European Union, to the Commission, to the Member States, calls on the Commission to consider specific measures to preserve, protect the endangered languages, calls on Member States to ratify the European Charter. But the issue is what happened with those resolutions? Maybe we should think about, I don't know, creating, thinking, actions or plans in order to fulfill those resolutions, because otherwise we have resolutions, decisions, and some of them with a lot of support from the Parliament, but they have no more way. I mean, they finish there. So I think that for the future, we should think not only about the resolutions, but also how to fulfill the recommendations of the resolution. So this would be my first reflection. Secondly, when we talk about language revitalization, language normalization, well, the aim of the language revitalization is to achieve speakers, tools, and the spaces for using a language. And for that, we have legal framework, we have resources, we have planning, and we have the civil society. So I try to make my proposals just from the perspective of legal framework, resources, planning, and civil society. Well, in terms of adequate legislations and referring to the European Union, I think there are two lines of work. Well, David have talked about that, about the officiality of all languages and so on. But well, I think that we need a EU regulation or directive on minoritized European language rights. I mean, this is the first essential we need. But not only that. I mean, as I've said before, the issue of the language diversity, according to the European Union, is a domestic issue, but it's not real. So I think that we should make a new interpretation of the European regulations. I mean, just at least to give the opportunity, for instance, to the autonomous communities of establishing the obligatory use of the minorities language in some issues. For instance, in labeling. We have now a problem with labeling because the European directive states that it must be put in a European official language, or so just the opportunity to the autonomies to make those obligations. You have talked about the law of audiovisual, and I think that in the directives they should have some kind of linguistic perspective, because in the case of the Spanish state, the discussion about the language law audiovisual is because some kind of transposition of an EU directive concerning the provision of audiovisual media and services. In this directive, the European states say that it must leave some quota for the European production, but nothing about languages. So in this directive, they could include that not only must be European production, only production in European languages, in all European languages. In that sense, it could be easier for the state, it could be easier for us to ask to the state to include languages as ours in the audiovisual law. Well, another interesting point should be the resources. As I've said before, there is a decision of the Court of Justice of Europe of the 2001. 2001, we are in 2021. So I think that that legal base should be, I don't know, maybe it cannot be established, but we should start rethinking about how to allocate just a EU funding specifically for so-called regional and minority languages. And of course, the creation of a new action just for the so-called regional and minorities languages. And thirdly, planning. I think that, yes, we need more time to think about that, but maybe we need a European language plan. I am totally agree with David when we have mentioned the compliance mechanism. I think that sometimes in Europe, when we make research and so on, we talk about languages, situation of languages, Euromosaic, and so on, but we do really need to know the situation of the language right of the communities in Europe. So for that reason, I totally agree with the proposals made by Ellen. We need some kind of ombudsman of our language right, a European commissioner for the autochthonous national linguistic minorities, and also, well, we have talked about the agency, a consultative body of the European Parliament on national and linguistic minority issues. I know that maybe you think that I am not realistic. It's true that I also signed the petition of Minority Safe Pack, and I read the position of the Commission. I mean, they didn't answer positively for just any of what we asked. But it's true that we have a problem, but it's also true that we have opportunities. And finally, I have been talking about, just 1 minute, I've been talking about legal framework, resources, planning, civil society. Well, we need to make a strong social pressure, it is true. In the Basque Country, we have realized that the civil society that works in favor of the Basque language must empathize with other groups that also suffer discrimination. For instance, with feminist groups or LGBTQ+, or youth movements. I think we must work with other communities that also suffer discriminations. And if we achieve some kind of consensus with those associations, will be stronger, because I think that our final goal is to achieve an equal Europe, a Europe where no discrimination will be permitted. So I think in that sense that the social movement, the civil association, we must also rethink about our positions and just to create new alliances with other movements if we want to pressure just to change the language policy, but not also language policy, also other discrimination policies of the European Union.